speak to the rocks, to the ferns and the cedars, to the moss. Speak to the stones, all who are older than any I have ever known, older than I shall ever be. And I ask them that I may walk by in peace and in good relations. I look to the bird that flies through the sky. I ask to be like this bird who leaves very little change as it moves through the air. As I gather the sage plant, the herbs of the forest, I first give thanks. I give my offerings. I share with it stories that our spirits can be greeted and in good relations. And I ask that I may use it in a good way, that it may come into my body. And when it agrees, it lifts itself up from the soil into my hand. What we've been learning here through NatureWise is this sacred etiquette, this way of being in the world as a relative and as a younger relative. That when we come here and we move here through the forest, we're moving through in a good way. We are listening to our plant relatives. We are listening in to what the birds have to share. We're embracing the crawly ones who want to crawl on us and greet us and say, "Who are you who comes into my forest, comes into my home?" You know, in our Western mind, we have this sense of being in this adversarial approach to life, this consumer-based mindset that we are here to consume and to take, and that we must be an adversary to take. But when we enter these indigenous ways, these ancestral perspectives, that we are just but a tiny thread in the web of life. We did not create this thread. We did not create this web. But we are woven into it. There's so much, as you have already experienced, there's so much for us to learn when we avail ourselves, when we break down the walls that insulate us from this greater connection. When we let go of the arrogance that we are somehow dominant, but bring ourselves low. We can pay attention to the little things. Pay attention to the plants as we pass them, the moss and the insects. We can avail ourselves to listen into the birds and the songs. The wind speaks through the trees. That the rivers echo up through the land. We've been learning this etiquette of moving through the world in a more humble way, where we become receptive to the power and the gifts and the magic of all of creation, that we can be the student of the plants, but we can also be the student of each other. It's part of our learning experience is that collaborative learning, where we are each students. We are each on our own unique learning trail. And when we can avail ourselves, as David White says, make vulnerability be a discipline that we bring into every conversation. We bring a sense of transparency. We bring in a sense of authenticity. And when we show up that way, we are actually empowering others to show up that way. and to come back into a place of receptivity and connection. So everything we've been doing here with becoming nature-wise has been these indigenous and ancestral ways of listening, of sensing into our environment that we can become part of our environment, and our environment becomes a part of us. That as we move through the forest, we may ask, may I walk through here in peace? May I walk through here as a younger relative and receive what you may have to offer, your stories, your teachings, and that will bring me into that remembering of how I and you and we are all connected in this greater web of life, that we may move through this world in a more humble way with great reverence and respect. Such a magical thing when we give ourselves permission just to listen. Isn't that right? I love it so much. There's a quote by Hafiz, and he says, "My heart and your heart are very old friends." When we come out here and you do your still sitting, you do your sense meditation, you still the mind so you can become receptive. There's this feeling where you get broken open. And you experience that. My heart, this heart, are very old friends. And when you can do that with the people in your life, wow. Your heart and their heart are very old friends. And so we move into this way where we begin to let go of this adversarial approach to our life, our careers, our relationships. We move away from that consumer mindset of wanting just to take, what am I getting from this relationship or this activity or this experience? And instead we avail ourselves to be in relationship with it. We gain entrance to this inheritance that we never even knew we had, but is readily available. And really this act of earning entrance into the conversation that nature and spirit is wanting to invite us into, that act of earning relationship is really your ability to be present and listen in. And when you do, the layers, and the other invitations that you will receive. Wow. I've been doing this journey for nature connection my whole life, and very specifically these 16 years, and I'm still just a baby, and I love that. I love that I feel like I'm still just scratching the surface. So I look forward to see how you bring these gifts and this etiquette of connecting and walking into the world in a sacred way, listening. Oh. Yeah. All right.